Hello, everybody. I am Peter the Book Lover, and this is Movie Talk, to where I talk about 3 of the movies that I recently seen. I'm going to talk about some old silent movies. Let's talk about some movies. Hello, everybody. I am Peter the Book Lover. I love to read books, so therefore I made a channel where I talk about the books that I read. But at the same time, I'm also a movie lover, so I decided that I would talk about movies as well as books. And in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 movies, but really 3 movies and 2 remakes of these movies. And these are pretty interesting movies. They're I kind of watch these for the Halloween season. So let's talk about those movies. But before I do, I want to thank you for giving me your time. I really appreciate you being here, and I thank you for watching my channel. And one thing that I see as I'm making these videos on how precious time is, because man, it's funny on how time can get away from you. Making these videos actually is time consuming, and I'm kind of surprised on how time consuming they are. So let's get into them. Okay, the first movie that I'm going to talk about is from 1922. This is directed by F.W. Marnu, and this is the movie Nosferatu. And this is pretty much the story of Dracula, but like the first version of Dracula. And this was a pretty interesting movie. Let me talk about the actors that are in this movie. Now, Hutter is like the main character. He is played by Gustav van Wangenheim. And also we have Count Orlok, which plays Dracula, the Dracula character. That is by Max Schreck. We have Ellen, which is the love interest of Hutter, and that is Greta Schroeder. Then we got Knock, which is Alexander Granich. And this is pretty much the story where Knock is a real estate agent, and he sends Hutter to Transylvania to meet Count Orlok so he could sell him a property. And on his way to this castle, he has some strange encounters. I mean, people are afraid to go. If you're familiar with the story of Dracula, same thing that happens. People are warning him not to go into town, and he ignores them. He sees some wild animals. In the movie, in this silent movie, it looks like a hyena. I think they used a hyena. That's what it looked like. And then he's got people that don't want to go further. And then a strange carriage comes and picks him up and takes him to the castle. Then when he gets to the castle, he meets Count Orlok. And Orlok is kind of a strange character. As they're eating a meal, he cuts his finger. And Count Orlok actually approaches him to suck his finger. And it's kind of a weird meeting. And then there's a part of the conversation to where they're having a conversation, and his pendant, a necklace, falls off with a picture of Ellen in it. And when Orlok sees Ellen, he starts acting really infatuated with the photo. So then he winds up selling him a property across the way from his house. And then Count Orlok, when it's getting close to morning time, says that he's got to attend to other business, and then he leaves Hutter in his castle, and then Hutter gets stuck in the castle and has to get away. Now, at the same time, Knock, played by Alexander Granich, he's the one that set Hutter to make this real estate deal, and he starts acting crazy. He's a lot like the Renfield character. And then Count Orlok takes a boat to where he could go to the hometown of Hutter, and strange things happen on the boat. There's rats, and there's a plague, and then the boat finally makes it, but with everybody dead. And then I'm not going to give away any more of the story, but that's pretty much how this story starts. And this is like an hour and a half long, and this was an entertaining movie. Now it's very dated, like the end of this movie could have been better, but it was still a decent movie, and I would recommend checking this out, especially if you're a fan of Dracula. So I would recommend this movie. This was pretty good. Nice silent movie. And I'm not used to watching silent movies, so I enjoyed it though. It was very enjoyable. Now the next movie that I'm going to talk about is directed by Rupert Julian. And this is from 1925. And before I watched this movie, I actually read the book, The Phantom of the Opera, which is from 1910. And this was starring Lon Chaney, which is the Phantom, which is Eric. We've got Christine as Mary Philibon. We got Carlotta, which is by Virginia Pearson. And we got Raoul, which is Norman Carey. And what this story is about is the Phantom of the Opera is a person that's got a lot of talents. He's a ventriloquist. He's a great musician. He's also a great singer. He's got architectural skills. He's great at building trapdoors, booby traps, and he's also very hideous looking. So if he talks to people, he has to wear a mask. And underneath his mask, he's very hideous. And he falls in love with Christine. And Christine is really not a part of a show, but there's a woman, Carlotta. She is a part of the show. So the Phantom sets it up to where he wants Carlotta replaced by Christine, and he goes to the directors of the new directors of the opera house in Paris. He tells them that he wants Christine to play instead of Carlotta, but they refuse, and then they rig her show. He rigs her show to where she has a crack in her voice, and then at the same time he makes a chandelier fall. And so they give the performance to Christine, and everybody's wild with her. And then he's trying to manipulate her to fall in love with him, but she's not falling in love with him. But she is in love with Raoul. Now, Raoul is a man that's going to do what he can to save this woman. And that's pretty much all I'm going to give away about this story. I kind of did give away a lot, but you could still enjoy this movie. And the thing about this movie, it's fantastic. It really is. As a matter of fact, I got to say, this movie is a little bit better than the book. I really enjoyed the book, but at the same time, the book had an ending that I was not impressed with. But the ending to this movie was fantastic. The ending is great to this movie, by the way. If you're watching this movie, I'm going to let you know that, if you like this movie, getting to the ending, you're going to love the ending. The ending is pretty cool. And it's the makeup they put on Lon Chaney is pretty incredible, man. Great makeup job, and this was an excellent movie from 1925. I really enjoyed it. Though if you watch this on Tubi, there's two versions. There's a version without any sound at all, and there's another version to where there's sound to it. Also, it's available on YouTube with sound. But, the thing that's kind of bad about it is that the version without any sound is a clearer picture. So if you have a way you could have Tubi on two sources. You could play the movie without sound and watch that and listen to the other movie with sound, because the picture is a lot better. But I highly recommend this one. This one is a very, very good movie. Okay, the third movie that I'm going to talk about is from 1923. This is directed by Wallace Worsley. And this is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now, this is a book that I've read over a year ago. maybe 2 years ago. So I wasn't really, I was familiar with the story, but not extremely familiar because it was quite a while since I've read this book. Now, the actors in this movie is Quasimodo, played by Lon Chaney, Esmeralda by Patsy Ruth Miller, Phoebus by Norman Carey, Johann by Brendan Hurst, and Gringoire is played by Raymond Hatton. And what this story is about is pretty much this hunchback. He's another hideous character, but this one has a warmer heart. Not like a really completely warm heart, but he is a decent. He's more decent on the inside than he is on the outside. And it starts out with the Festival of Fools, and they crown the ugliest person in Paris, and because this is by the Church of Paris, and they crown Quasimodo and they celebrate him, and then later on, Johann, which is a priest that actually falls in love with Esmeralda, and he has Quasimodo try to kidnap her, and then Quasimodo gets caught kidnapping her, and then they sentence him into Times Square. They sentence him to be whipped, and then they sentence him to be humiliated. And while he's being humiliated, he is dying of thirst, and he's very thirsty. And Esmeralda is pretty much sees him suffering, so she goes and helps him by giving him water. And then later on, Johann actually tries to frame Esmeralda, and he kills Phoebus, which is a guy that Esmeralda's in love with. At the same time, there's the character of Gringoire, that is another character that kind of gets connected with Esmeralda. But, I can't really give away too much more than that to give away the story. But yes, then later on, Esmeralda gets in trouble and Quasimodo comes to her rescue. And then it's got a finale. Now, this was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed this movie quite a bit, although I thought it could be a little bit better. And, the movie I'm going to talk about soon was a little bit better than this. But at the same time, this is an impressive performance from 1923. And the makeup they put on Quasimodo, Lon Chaney did a pretty good job of being Quasimodo. And this version of the Hunchback of Notre Dame is a little bit closer than the other movie I'm going to talk about. Okay. Now the fourth movie that I'm going to talk about is Nosferatu. But this one's in 1979. This is director Werner Herzog. And in this movie, the cast is Count Dracula. It's not Count Orlok. This is Count Dracula by Klaus Kinski. Then we got Jonathan Harker, other than Hutter. This is by Bruna Ganz. We got Lucy instead of Ellen by Isabel Adjani, maybe. Then we got Renfield instead of Knock. Then we've got Van Helsing in this movie, which was not in the original Nosferatu. And I'm not going to go over the plot because it's pretty much similar. Although in this, there's a couple differences. The biggest difference is the names of the cast. The characters are named a little bit different. And and this is in color. And the way this movie starts out is pretty cool. It's the same type of stuff. He goes to the castle. And we all know that Renfield loses his mind. He's the one that sends him. And the thing about this movie, though, it's they didn't improve to it. They didn't make any improvements. I mean, they stuck a little bit closer to the names. They added Van Helsing, but Van Helsing wasn't a really dominant character. They also used the name Lucy, and there is Mira, I think her name is, and Mini. I can't remember the name, but the original love interest in the book Dracula. Now, Dracula is a great book, and I really enjoyed it. And in the beginning it was pretty cool, but the makeup for Nosferatu was nowhere near as the makeup they used in the original Nosferatu. He was way creepier looking. I mean, he did kind of look creepy, but not as good as the original. So I don't highly recommend this, but at the same time, I'm glad I gave this movie the time and I watched it. Yeah, so it was pretty interesting. The next movie that I'm going to talk about is The Hunchback of Notre Dame from 1939. And this is directed by Dartarle. And this is the cast of this movie is Quasimodo is played by Charles Laughton, Esmeralda by Maureen O'Hara, Phoebus by Alan Marshall, Frollo is played by Cedric Hardwicke, Chaplin is played by Thomas Mitchell, Gringoire is played by Edmund O'Brien, and King Louis XI is played by Harry Davenport. Now, this is the same thing, the same story of the Hunchback of Notre Dame, what I've told you in the previous movie, but this is a more modern version, and they did a better job than the original. The makeup from Quasimodo is a little bit better. They did a fantastic job of making his face seem like it's like lopsided. And it's great. Another thing that improved this movie, this is not a silent movie. This has the sound. The look of this movie is a lot better. Plus, it goes a little bit deeper into the characters. Chaplin, played by Thomas Mitchell, he's Uncle Billy from It's a Wonderful Life. He's also in the movie Gone with the Wind, and he did a fantastic job of playing Chaplin. Chaplin is kind of the leader of the poor people, and he leads an uprising against the church because Maureen O'Hara, Esmeralda, is in there for sanctuary. And there's a big mob at the end of this movie. Another actor in this movie that I wrote down because I know him from Gone with the Wind. He's the doctor from Gone with the Wind that was having to deal with cutting off people's legs without anesthesia. Great performance in Gone with the Wind. And he does a decent performance in this movie. He's like the king with a nice heart. And I really enjoyed his character in this movie. Yeah, and I got to say, this is an improvement from the 1923 version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And I enjoyed this quite a bit. This was a very good movie. I look forward to seeing this again because I really enjoyed this. And that's about it. That's the movies I'm going to talk about. I hope you enjoyed me talking about these movies. These are pretty cool movies. If you haven't seen any silent movies, these are really good silent movies. So if you want to check out some silent movies, there you go. Okay, that's about it for the video. I want to thank you for being here. And if you like the video, please give me a like. Those mean a lot to me. And if you haven't subscribed, can you subscribe to the channel so you could see my future content? I'm always making more. Although it's not perfect, but I try my best. I put a lot of work into these videos. Although I still need more work. But that's about it. I want to thank you for coming by. I'm working on my next episode of Movie Talk. And those movies are even better than these movies. So come back and check that out. And I will see you in the future. Thank you for stopping by. I will see you next time.